Hey folks, Kanal here, Bulls on Wall Street. I want to talk about a trade we did today. I love this type of trade. It's one of my money makers, this EBIO. We had a really good day on it. I'm taking a few different trades. I made a decent chunk of change on it. But one of the things about a stock like this was a $2 stock here, and I had some type of PR out that thrusted this thing to $8. But you can see like what happened yesterday was there was this big fade once it tapped into basically the 200-day moving average. It spiked up and then it gave it all back, right? Not all of it, but ended up still 100% for the day, but it gave back half, and that's not a really bullish sign for a stock. You want a stock when it has a PR out, it has a big gain out, to hold a good chunk of its gains. If it gives more than half of it back, I mean that's not a bullish case scenario in my book. And so, I had the stock on my watch list as it showed up on my top gainers list. And so, today, when the stock gapped up again, you can see the stock gapped up again all the way into the 670s. My first play on this type of thing is, if it can't gap up and flag and go attack its old high, then most likely it's going to fade back down and kind of get back down to kind of these lows over here, somewhere in the support zones that it got back to yesterday. And so that's kind of what, the play was for today. So, as this thing gapped up here, and when it couldn't hold, right, it couldn't hold this area, I said, I'm shorting this thing right at the 6 spot. I added a few thousand shares at 6, and then I added another 1,000 shares as we broke down. And my targets are really down. You're hoping for this gap to fill, but you're going to target. You're going to cover a few into resistance points and support points. That's, the essence of trading. So I use EMAs. So I covered a few into the EMAs, and I usually keep a little bit for the home run. So one of the things that you'll see here is, as this thing is flushing down, I scale out, and I'm covering into these big flushes as this gap is filling. And then I'll keep a core position for a flush later in the day. And then you can see the stock had a nice short pop here into the 540s, and we essentially just bear flagged it. And so I add a few into the pop and the crack, and just to keep building into my position. And so, like, say I had a quarter left, I'll short a half position into this pop, and then I'll cover back down into these flushes. It doesn't look like much, but when you have 4,000 or 5,000 shares, right, these end up being good amounts of cash. And the key is, of course, when you're trading this style, is to have a broker that charges you per share. We get charged 27 cents per 100 share, and it doesn't matter how many executions you do. You can be covering the shares at 10 shares at a time, or 50 shares, or 100 shares, or whatever you want to do. So you can do a lot of executions and really be able to scale in and out. And so, I start scaling back out of this thing. And then as this thing starts to grind here, you can see here, and you make some higher lows, you got to essentially get out of this trade because it can squeeze to the upside. Usually a stock that's fallen this big and it goes sideways for a while, you're going to squeeze back into it. And so, I covered the rest of my shares as it breaks back above. I covered it at 490. And the plan is to just re-short into spots of resistance and wait for a crack. So thank this stock that it tapped right into the VWAP and then crack. And so I re-shorted some at 515, 5,000 shares. And, it got down into 470s. I covered a couple thousand shares into it. And then I got out the rest of the shares, basically end of the day flat. But, overall, a great trade. I love this type of look. This is very important type of trade if you're a day trader to have in your toolbox. As a trader, you have to have a playbook of go-to setups that you can rely on every day. And your PR earnings breakouts, breakdowns, these type of biotech fades are a part of my go-to setups and something that I utilize every single day. And it's important to learn. So take a look at this video. Feel free to ask me any questions that you have, and I'll talk to you guys later. Take care.